Tibet was literally a feudal slave mandate
So
autonomous zone.
China did them a favor.
That was one. I mean, in America, when I say something like this, people get very upset. You know, we talk about the Dalai Lama saying "suck my tongue" or whatever, but like that's not far from the norm in normal Tibetan existence before the Communist Party came in and
so
took
China
over.
unilaterally.
He even talks the way that a propagandist would by saying the Communist Party rather than China. Like, the Communist Party is just the political party that rules China. They aren't the soldiers, you know? The annexation of Tibet wasn't done by the... Like, it's not, like, really weird that he would say... I don't know.
Took over Tibet.
Like,
these are their culture. They basically are trying to, you know, homogenize the culture.
If your culture...
They're trying to spoil the religion and the identity.
The part of feudal warlords and slavery, abolishing that, yes, I do think that is good.
No,
this is like literally beat for beat, word for word, the exact same shit that European colonists said back in the 19th century. Like, every single territory captured and held and colonized everywhere. Like India, they had a caste system. It was super fucked up, you know? Fucking Africa, Middle East, Latin America, the Aztecs, you know, like every single time. It's like literally like word for word. This is Sargon's defense for the English Empire. I know because I've argued with the far right people who have made these arguments. Like, I'm like, hey, you know, it's pretty bad to kill all those people. And they're like, by kill, do you mean get rid of these barbaric practices? Like, it's the same thing.
China did them a favor.
I think that, yes, I will be on the record
just
to
like
state
America did it.
That while the Chinese government... Wait.
I'm not going to say it.
Well, there is no equivalent in American intervention that you can point to in a similar capacity, unless you're talking about.
Okay, so
and I think this is a good way to describe Taiwan as well. The American federal government going into the fucking South and killing, unfortunately, not all of them, but a decent amount of slavers and defenders of slavery.
That was a civil war that was started by the South. The South. What? I'm sorry, did Tibet secede from China and then declare war on China?
Violent retribution from a powerful federal government that squashed, okay?
Tibet is the South in the Civil War?
Yes. Tibet
like what? Like this is the most... You have to be so desperate to find some kind of pretext to justify this. Because in every single historical case, like every single time, you look at the logic that Hasan is using, and it's been used for evil. And then he's like, oh, well, actually, it's like this one completely different thing that isn't at all like what we're discussing right now, and that's why it was good, actually. What has, like Hasan is being radicalized like fucking Elon Musk over here into campism. Like, I swear to God, it wasn't this bad a year ago.
In the time frame where Chinese intervention happened would be the South. Yes, so they were doing slavery.
What was the moral aspect of the war of China?
The interests are obviously like national security or whatever the fuck they claim, but ultimately the reality was that beyond the material benefits, that yes, they were a feudal, oppressive, slavery-backed state.
Yeah, so like, why not invade Iraq or Afghanistan, right? Like, Afghanistan was and is a hell of a lot worse than Tibet, and Iraq was controlled by Saddam Hussein, who had killed and genocided a ton of people. Like, genuinely, like what? Like, if you can invade and annex territories because those territories are really bad, which seems to be the justification being used here, then like, why not? Hasan isn't arguing the situations were the same. He's arguing Tibet was a moral equivalent. Well, it's not. It's not only that they're not the same, it's that there's no moral parallel, like, at all. There's no comparison there. And I'm not some crazy Tibet stan or whatever, okay? I think that Tibet, it was a shithole, and I think the Dalai Lama also is full of it. I think the Dalai Lama is, like, promoted by a lot of Westerners as some kind of peace-loving fucking... No, he's not. He's just another shitty, corrupt religious leader. He's said before he basically believes in like ethno-nationalism. Like the Dalai Lama, like I don't give a shit, okay? I don't fucking care about like Tibet's culture or history. I don't know anything about it. I don't care, you know? But don't look me in the eye and pretend like, oh yeah, well, we needed to invade and annex in order to you know, like, yeah, put an end to their culture of slavery and evil. Like, well, okay, but then it's what everyone says this. And we know what's been happening in Tibet since then. We know for a fact that, like, China has engaged in the exact same systems of oppression and elimination that we did with the Native Americans, taking people from their families, forcibly educating them, putting them in, like, cultural re-education camps. We know how this works.
Vaush mod person. Well, this was
Vaush
on
mod.
my For You. Philip DeFranco presented my critique to Hasan perfectly. Yeah, dude. Good luck on your content journey, Vaush mod person. Hopefully you will be able to launch something off of this, you know. Proud of you. Keep defending slavery. Yes, you're right. The federal government actually...
Literally, it's the exact same arguments. It's like when you point out the Spanish did horrible shit to the Aztecs, and then the people defending are like, ah, wow, thanks for defending ritualistic human sacrifice. Enjoy your career. Like, he's so fucking mad and he can't defend anything that he's said. He's such a bad fucking representation of left thought. He's not a leftist. He's not he is at most like a social democrat who has fallen in with the far right for every single non-Western country. Like, he's just campism with social democracy stapled on. Do you think he believes this genuinely? I don't know. He's kind of stupid. I don't know what he believes.
Actually did an imperialism in the Confederate States of the United States of America during the Civil War. I agree. There you go, guys. You got it.
You can tell that he knows his position is really difficult to defend, because rather than defend it on its own merits, he immediately and lazily goes to these invalid comparisons as a way of locking people out of critically thinking about what he said. Like, guess you wouldn't have wanted to invade the South during the... Like, rather than engaging with anything on its own merits, you know? How did this start? What happened? He received his weekly missive to defend everything the CCP has ever done. Yeah, by the rules of China's annexation of Tibet, the 17 points put forward, it's not like they even fixed everything. The Tibetan people shall unite and drive out invading imperialist forces from Tibet. The Tibetan people shall return to the big family of the motherland, the People's Republic of China. That's great. I love that language. The local government of Tibet shall assist the People's Liberation Army. National regional autonomy. The central authorities will not alter the existing political system in Tibet. The central authorities will also not alter the established status, functions, and powers of the Dalai Lama. The established status, functions, and powers of the Panchet Nohenti, or whatever the fuck that is, shall be maintained. Like, this wasn't some effort at, like, modernizing and fixing Tibet. They just wanted to annex, like, they just want territory. It's just fascist government shit, okay? The convos are long and nuanced, and Hasan takes 1,000 words to say what he could in 100. You're responding to clips IMO that don't fully represent what he says. Come on, man. I've seen, like, longer segments of Hasan talking. He believes this shit. Like, don't pretend he's getting clip chimped. What he was saying here was pretty unambiguously bad. It wasn't like a 2-second snippet or whatever. The first thing we saw was 2 minutes of him presenting like full arguments for the annexation of Tibet. There isn't like some missing, like, left hook that could change the context here. This isn't a matter of, like, sucking and coalition building, okay? I don't want a coalition build with fascists. What? How is that me being wrong? Like, is it not fucking... Like, I turn my back for 1 second on Hasan, and I feel like he is engaging in, like, fucking gray zone levels of campism here, you know? I swear to God, you guys realize that if it wasn't for the fact that it was a complete political non-starter in the West, outside of the far right, he probably would be saying the same shit about Russia, right? To be fair, he's pretty good in domestic issues. Yeah, it's always like that, though. They're good on domestic issues because they're ineffectual and localized. But when it comes to support, it's the same reason that the Gray Zone and Jimmy Dore are, like, nominally in favor of Medicare for all or whatever. It's one thing, like, what you say you believe, but the overall logic that's being presented is completely, it's terrible. So now literally no good people have come out of TYT. Yeah, Emma did. Yeah, Emma's great. I don't think Emma's going to have a heel turn. I always forget that Emma did because Emma isn't retarded. So it's like, how could... Nah, Emma couldn't have come out of TYT. She's reasonable. Kyle Kalinske. So is Kyle Kalinske out of TYT? Is Azan really a net bad to the left, though? Dog, I don't think you understand how bad it is to just, like, unambiguously repeat far-right geopolitical talking points. I don't know why... Like, what level of leftism are we on where we are rightfully willing to get angry with Anna Kasparian over her doing this insane, like, birthing person bullshit rhetoric. But then Hasan will just spend, like, 4 hours repeating glorious people's propaganda of the fucking People's Communist Party of People's China Peoples. And then everyone's like, oh, yeah, well, he may have just spent 8 hours defending colonialism with, like, 19th century English arguments. But, you know, he likes unions. So, like, fuck, man. Is this bar really being set that high? The proletariat is international. An enemy of the foreign proletariat is an enemy of the local proletariat. I don't buy any of this. Well, he's good on domestic issues. You know who's good on domestic and foreign issues? Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders is good on both. His principles are consistent, axioms grounded. I don't trust anyone who's like, yeah, dude, unions are good, haha. Now, I've received a missive from Beijing. Allow me to repeat this, glorious statement that I have been asked to read by Xi Jinping. You know, I don't buy this shit. Are his takes more appealing to neo-Dems? The only people these takes appeal to are perma-online, politically ineffectual campists and leftists. That's it. That's the only people this appeals to, and none of these people vote anyway. Vaush, I've never heard Hasan advocate for any country invading another. He's just obsessed with trying to counter what he considers Western media narratives. Yeah, like the Western media narrative of China shouldn't have annexed Tibet and shouldn't invade Taiwan. So if he's against those narratives, what then implicitly is he in favor of? Like, if the common Western logic is, hey, Taiwan is, you know, its own country and probably shouldn't be invaded, and then Hasan is like, by glorious missive from Beijing, I must remind all of my viewers that Taiwan is actually ethnically the same as China, and therefore is basically just a part of China, and it's not our business, and if China wants to resolve its long-standing civil war by integrating its dissident territory, then what, like, come on. Do you think that pro-war people will just get out there and say, like, I am pro-invading? Nobody says that. Like, think back to the Iraq War. Like, George Bush didn't go up there and say, yeah, I'm pro-invading, I love war, I want to invade with war. Like, no, it's always like, I think that we should intervene to strategically promote democratic interests abroad. Like, nobody just says, yeah, I'm pro-war. So what Hasan is doing is as much pro-war as anyone who's waged war in the past. It's the exact same rhetoric. Hasan says invading Taiwan would be disastrous. Yeah, and? Did we not see enough of this with Russia and Ukraine? With all of the people who support Russia being like, oh, Russia would never invade Ukraine. And then once Russia did invade Ukraine, they're like, oh, well, it's not really an invasion. It's actually like they're just protecting from ethnic genocide the Russian-speaking people in the Donbass region or whatever. Like, have you not seen this before? Like, we just did this, guys. Just a military operation. He's already laid the groundwork for referring to an invasion of Taiwan as a military operation because he refuses to acknowledge it's a separate country and he defends every fucking thing China does. Saying he's doing this for his audience's cope. I didn't say he's doing this for his audience. I think he's doing this because he's trying to fit in with a group of, like, podcasters and politically ineffectual people, and he's trying to be, like, cool with them, you know? I think it's more peer pressure than anything. Hasan says it would be disastrous, but also won't say it wouldn't be justified. Well, he's laid all the groundwork for it being justified by continuing to, like, oh, yeah, well, ethnically they're the same. Oh, well, actually, it's part of China. You know, like, this keeps happening. He defended China's takeover and suppression of Hong Kong. Literally. Like, there were years of protests, millions of people in the street. China broke their promises, disappeared political leaders, and completely crushed resistance in Hong Kong. And Hasan was making fun of it on his stream. So your position is if China invaded Taiwan tomorrow, Hasan would come on stream and be supportive of it? No, I think he would do the exact same thing that every fucking Russia simp did. I think that he would say, oh, I think this is bad. However, here are reasons why it's not as bad as Western media says it is. Also, we shouldn't be intervening in it. We shouldn't be doing anything. Also, let's be fair, they were engaged in a nonstop civil war, and this is effectively just like a territorial dispute, not a full-on invasion of another country. And then when, like, information came about of specific horrible things China's done, he would be like, oh, well, that's bullshit, you know, like that specific thing or whatever. Or like, oh, come on, like, you really think that China would do that bad thing? Like, we've seen this happen. We just saw this with Russia. And yeah, and he would mention America every single, like, sentence. It would be like, oh, well, that's bad. But remember when America did this thing? And basically, he would do exactly what every single propagandist did for Russia. Every single, like, RT shill. He would, like, do everything possible to defend China's behavior within the limited purview of what he could get away with without just, like, outright alienating himself to his audience. Ruben agrees. Hasan was even on the Second Thought podcast recently. Yeah, the Second Thought guys are fascists. The deprogram guys are fascists.
So what's wrong with NATO expansion? If majority population voted in favor, would that mean NATO expansion is justified? In that circumstance, NATO is 1,000% an aggressor outside fucking force, okay? Russia is not. Russia annexing its own fucking territory that it's had, that its own territory full of its own fucking people.
He's talking about the illegal annexation of Crimea here. So a country voting to join NATO and then joining an alliance makes them an aggressor, but he is literally referring to Crimea as Russia's territory.
It's not the same as NATO being like, we're going to turn your country into a fucking base and put literal fucking military bases and rockets into your country.
It's just blood and soil. It is indistinguishable from the arguments of like any fascist imperialist. This is unforgivable. This was 2 years ago. 2 years ago, I'm pretty sure this is the thing he had to walk back. Yeah, because he's stupid. He's stupid and he wants to be the edgy lefty populist celebrity, so he'll just test out like insane campist anti-American shit to say, and then when it ends up going so far that even his audience rebels against it, he's like, oh, I take it back. But he never really takes it back. He basically just kind of like, because when it gets brought up again in the future, he always seems kind of like upset that it gets brought up, like, you know, hey, I walked that back. But the logic hasn't changed. The logic is exactly the same. He brought up the it's actually their territory, ethnically speaking argument with Taiwan. Like, it's the same shit. It hasn't changed. At this point, what does Hasan actually believe in? I don't fucking know. Vaush, you do realize you're the biggest lefty streamer now? That's true. That's true. Can we please move on from drama? You're right. It's time to stop talking about Hasan and start talking about Hasan and Cenk. There we go. There we go. And we're back. Vaush, I honestly kind of hate him now, not gonna lie. Same? Keep in mind, again, the last interaction that I had with Hasan was people in my subreddit posting clips of him and complaining about him being pro-Russia, and him DMing me to ask me to delete those comments and like moderate the subreddit to stop criticizing him. That was the last interaction that I had with him directly. Even though I'm banned in his subreddit. Yeah. Did you do it? Of course not.